Welcome all. This is a video series about Revit. It's actually going to be called Revit 2019 Step-by-Step House Plan. And this series is designed for the absolute beginner, the beginner to Revit and beginner to architecture. Home design typically starts with a drawing and or a model. Sketched on a piece of paper. A lot of times it's just loosely sketched, nothing too formal. The formalization comes when you start putting it in the computer. And when we put it in the computer, what we start with is the floor plan. The floor plan is first because that really decides everything else. And in our floor plan, what we're looking at, and of course you've probably already explored this if you have sketched your building design already, but you're looking, the very beginning, the very first idea you get is probably more aesthetic than functional, but we have to have functionality in our structures or they're just not, they're not worth anything. It's hundreds of thousands of dollars spent on building a structure that nobody can use. So functionality is primary. Aesthetics work very close to functionality. The way I like to look at it is that the structural or the functionality guides the aesthetics and vice versa. Aesthetics will guide the functionality, so they both have to work together equally to have a successful design. Alright, the first thing you want to do when starting up your Revit is start a new file. And we do that over here with the new button. Really simple. I'm sure that was probably self-explanatory, but here's where it gets tricky. You must choose the correct template, and you must choose architectural template. Okay, that's what we're starting with. If you choose anything else, it's not going to look like mine, and you're also not going to have a lot of the design features that you want if you choose one of the others. So I'm going to click the OK button. The first thing, of course, we talked about doing the floor plan first. That's where it all starts. But it actually all starts with the exterior shell of your building. That's where you're going to establish the overall shape of your design. So you may already have something in mind. Sometimes you don't. It's no big deal. A lot of times I design right here in the computer screen. What we want to start with is the exterior shell, our walls. Now, as far as the Revit operating interface, it's really just like AutoCAD, and if you're one of my students, you've already learned how to use AutoCAD. But quick access toolbar up top, you got your tabs, you got your ribbon, and inside the ribbon are separate panels with tools grouped together by use. You have two different items on the screen that you didn't have before, which is the Properties panel and the Project Browser. You will leave those open. Never turn those off because you will refer to them constantly. If you happen to lose any of these windows, you accidentally click on the X button to close it, or you think you're smart because you're going to have more real estate to draw with, but you don't know how to get the Project Browser and Properties panel back. Well, you go to the the View tab right here. You click on it, and you go over here to User Interface. You click on that, and you simply put a check mark beside Project Browser. Click on your User Interface again, and click on Properties. And now we have both back. The first thing we start with is a wall, of course. So I am going to click on the Wall tool, and this is the default wall that starts with in the system. You can start with that, but you're going to do some editing to it. You're going to do some editing to just about any wall that you choose. Most of these walls that are in here by default are geared around commercial construction. So I am going to pick one that is closest to, going to be more closely structured to what I'm going to build here. And that's going to be the exterior brick on metal stud right here. And of course I could design a house with metal studs. I don't have to use timber studs, but in this particular design, that is what I'm going to use is timber studs. So I'm going to have to edit this wall. So I click on Edit Type, And the first thing I do is I want to duplicate this. I don't want to change what's already here. I might decide to use that sometime later in the plan. So I'll just go ahead and duplicate. And I'm also not going to use the brick. I'm going to have a different siding. I'm going to have clapboard on timber. On timber stud. Okay, clapboard, that is kind of like an wood that is kind of layered, over layered. You'll see what it looks like as we get going, but just look it up on Google if you're unsure what it looks like. It's really hard to explain, but it's pretty common. I'm sure you've seen it before. So I'll click OK, and now I have my new wall. I'm working in a new wall, and I'm going to click on Edit to edit the materials that are inside the wall. The finish layer, that is the exterior finish. If you look up here, you'll see this says the exterior side. Down here it says interior side. All right, so starting from the exterior side, these are the different layers of this wall. Now I am going to change this exterior finish, and to do so I have to change the details, and I'll have to make a new material for it. Or I could look through here for a material that is very similar to what I'm going to use graphically. But I'm going to go ahead and make a new material, and I am going to call this new material. Click right here. So here's the button that I clicked if you didn't see that. This little kind of a globe with a plus mark on it. Create new material. I'm going to go to the Identity tab, and I'm going to name it based off of, you know, how I'm going to recognize it. So I'm going to call this I forget how to spell beige, so I'll just call it tan. But you know, tan clapboard or beige clapboard. And description, I can come back later and fill a lot of this stuff out here. I don't need to worry about it right now. But that comes in with your BIM, Building Information Modeling. So this would have all the information involved with where I'm getting material from, how much it costs, and everything else. But we'll come back and work on that later. Graphics, I want it to look like, you know, as I'm designing, I want it to look like what I want it to look like. So I'm going to choose this brownish, one of these brownish colors. That brownish color, and see if I can get it. No, I'm going to go to Pantone. Pantone is a trademarked color palette. They always make you agree to not sell it or something like that. And there's a good, well, it's not quite beige, it's more like a light brown. So right here, 4675, I'm going to choose that one and click OK. There's nice beige color. And you can also, you know, notate the color schema here with the red, green, and blue, because you'll want to copy that on your onto your next, the appearance tab. So I'm going to jot that down. 229, 198, and 170. Those are the numbers that determine your colors and how they show up in the digital realm. I'm going to go to the Appearance tab, and I'm going to change this color also to that same color, and I'm just going to type it in. Instead of looking for the same one, I'll just type it in. 229, 198, 170. There we go. And later on, I'll come back and do some more editing to that. There's ways we can add photographs in here and make your renderings look really realistic. But let's move on. All right, so clapboard, and of course, clapboard thickness isn't going to be 3 5/8 inches. I'll put about 1.5 inches on there. That would be, which it actually might even be a tad bit more than that. Yeah, so 1.5 inches. All right, thermal layer. I don't need a thermal layer with this type of finish, so I'm going to highlight that row by clicking right over here on the row number and then delete. membrane layer. I am going to have one of those, but this one's going to be a little different. This is going to be more of a vapor retarder and not just an air membrane. There is no thickness to that. Okay, that's just a very paper thin layer. Then next is substrate, which is the plywood sheathing. Okay, if you remember from last year, your Architecture 1 class, we talked about things like that, your plywood sheathing. But this is what this is, and it's already set for the correct size that it needs to be. Inside the core boundary is your structure, your framing structure. Right now it says metal stud layer, and we're going to make this one in a softwood lumber. And there it is, softwood lumber. Okay, and we're going to change the thickness of it because we are going to use 2x4s, which 2x4s are actually measured. 2x4 is just the nominal measurement, but a 2x4, the thickness we're looking for here is 3.5 inches. Okay, so 3.5 inches. The membrane layer on the inside is not necessary, or at least not here it isn't anyway. I'm in Texas and things just do not get, weather-wise, don't get that cold. And it really doesn't even rain a whole lot. Sometimes it does, but it differs. So I'm going to delete that layer like I did the other one. And then the finish on the inside, on the interior side, is gypsum wallboard 1/2 inch. That's good. I'm going to keep that. And I'm going to click OK. So now I have a wall that is structured like I want to. And now I can start drawing my house.